Welcome back. We're going to do another sanity check answers. This time the problem we're given is what is the equation of the line that goes through the point 3 comma negative 2 and has the slope of negative 2. And you had 4 different options, and this particular student got the first as the correct answer. Now how do I make sure that this is correct? You're going to answer that in private chat, so please pause the video and do that now. Okay, the answer is shown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are told first thing is the slope is negative 2. The slope is negative 2. That means m is negative 2 of the equation y is equal to mx plus b. And m is always the slope, and it's the number in front of the x, and it's just the number alone, not the x. And b is my y-intercept. That's going to be my y-intercept. Okay, so now we are told that slope is negative 2. That means the number in front of the x has to be negative 2. So is that true? Yes, this is true with this equation. It is also true with this equation and this equation. Certainly true with the first one. So that first criteria checks out. Now we need to make sure that it goes through this point 3 comma negative 2. Okay, now the first coordinate of a coordinate notation is always the x value. That's my x. The second number is my y value. That means since I am told that 3 comma negative 2 is on this line, or I think it is, that means when I plug in 3 for x and negative 2 for y, it needs to come out as a true statement. So let me just substitute that in. So instead of y, I am going to put negative 2 here. Instead of x, I'm going to use 3. So I have negative 2. That's from the original equation. Instead of x, 2x just means 2 multiplied by whatever x is, which is 3 minus 2. Now, is this going to come out as true? Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 minus 2. What's negative 6 minus 2? It's negative 8. And negative 8 is not equal to negative 2. Okay, so that's how we know that negative 2 is simplified already, so we just need to keep simplifying the more complicated side until we come up with the same answer, and we do not. That means this point does not go through this equation, so this cannot be correct. So then we need to be thinking, okay, I must be wrong. I must have made a mistake somewhere. Now let's see if we can solve this correctly. Let's use the correct method and then check to see if this is indeed correct. Okay, so you are given that slope is negative 2. So then you start by setting up the intermediate equation. So partially completed equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. The only thing we know is m, so we're going to put negative 2x plus b. Okay, so that's my partially filled equation. Now from here, since I know that this point must go through the equation, I am going to plug in 3 for x and negative 2 for y. And everything else stays the same. And there is a multiplication between negative 2 and x because that's always the default, plus b. We do not know what b is, so we leave it as a variable b. Now we keep simplifying. Negative 2, this is negative 2, multiply 3 is negative 6, plus b is equal to negative 2. Now I just want b. I don't want b minus 6, so I need to get rid of minus 6. How do I get rid of minus 6? I add 6 to both sides. And that goes away to 0, and you are left with just b on the right hand side. B is equal to negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. Okay, so now I am claiming that the actual equation is y is equal to, we still had the negative 2x, and we just figured out the B, which is 4. Okay, so now I am claiming that the correct answer is negative 2x plus 4. So I actually think it's this one now. Okay, so how do I know, make sure that this is correct? Again, I substitute the values in, or x and y, and y is negative 2 here, and x is positive 3, so negative 2 plus, multiplied by 3 plus 4. So negative 2 on the left hand side is very simple, so we don't need to do anything to it, but we just need to simplify the right hand side until we get down to one number. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 plus 4. What's negative 6 plus 4? Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2, and that is indeed equal to negative 2. So that checks out, so I know that this is the correct answer. Okay, this time we are doing this problem. Tena, Tena is participating in Thanksgiving turkey trot, and his distance d from the starting line, measured in meters, is modeled by the equation d is equal to 4t minus 2, where t is the number of seconds he's been running. So t is the number of seconds, and d is the distance from the starting line. Okay, where is Tanner's location at the start of the race, and how fast is he running during the race? Okay, so where is the location at the start of the race? What are we asking? Starting point. We're asking the starting point. And what's another name for starting point? That's the y-intercept. Okay, so we're looking for starting point, what the y-intercept, and how fast is he running? How fast he's running? We are looking for the speed, and speed is same as the unit rate. Okay, so here's the thing. Just say a student got this. Well, hopefully you know that the speed or the unit rate or the slope, which is the speed, that's going to be the unit rate or the slope. Slope is always the number in front of the variable, okay, t. Okay, so that means 4 is the slope, or this is the speed or unit rate in this case. And this negative 2, it's not positive 2, but it's negative 2 because negative belongs to the 2 here. So this is the starting line. What does that mean? The, the starting line is negative 2. If it was positive 2, that means he had a head start. If it was negative number, that means he actually started behind the starting line, right? So that's how you would know it, okay? That is how you solve it, okay? But how do I check if this is correct? Well, one thing you could do is, how do I know now? How do I know that my answer is correct? So starting point you are saying is behind 2, negative 2. 2, what is the unit for this? Starting line is the distance from the starting line. So it's 2 meters behind the starting point. Okay? Whereas the speed is 4. And so some students told me it's 4 seconds per meters. No, speed is always going to be the distance, 4 meters per second. Okay, so how far is it going? And that's because slope is always delta y over delta x. Or in this case, delta, instead of y, they're using d. So it's delta d over delta t. And so distance is the unit at the top, that's the meters. And time is in seconds. So the unit is 4 meters per second. Okay, not 4 seconds per minute. Now, how would I know that if I got this, that this is correct? Well, one way to know is plug it in. Okay, so how do I know what when he's starting? At starting point, what is the time? Time is 0, isn't it? So when time is 0, so at start, time is equal to 0. And this tells me distance is 4 times 0 minus 2. 4 times 0, anything times 0 is 0, minus 2 is just negative 2. So this tells me that distance starting point is 2 meters from the, the start line, and that's what we had as well. Okay, let's try this problem. There's a close relationship between the air pressure inside the hurricane and its maximum wind speed. The relationship is modeled by the equation y is equal to negative 1.08x plus 1120, where x is the air pressure and y is the wind speed. Okay, so x is the air pressure and y is the wind speed. Okay, what would be the wind speed? What is the wind speed? What are we looking for? We're looking for y. If the air pressure is x, so x is 980. Okay, so now the student got negative 2038 as your answer. How do I check if this is correct? Well, I am saying that I have just found the y to be y is equal to negative 20,2038. And this equation tells me y is equal to 1 point negative 1.08 x is 980 plus 1120. Now, if I use the calculator, what do I get for the right hand side? 1.08 times 980 is negative 1058.4, and then to that you need to add 1120, and that leaves me with 1120 minus, and that leaves me with, okay, and which is 61.08, which is definitely not equal to negative 2038. Okay, one way to make sure that is my answer reasonable is just think about it. What does it mean if I got negative 2038? I got the air pressure to be negative 2038. Does that sound right to you? Okay, as opposed to 61.6 kilopascal. Okay, air pressure and cannot be negative. So I know that this is definitely off. I've made some mistake there. Okay, for the remainder of the class, we recap the semester, the topics we learned, and these are the topics that you can look at from Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. And to closely reflect on that, we did a reflection on each of the topic where you gauged the on the link. On the Google Doc, looking like this, you made a copy of this. You looked at each of the topics, and then you moved each of the topics to where you feel that how well you are comfortable with, so that you can see what are the topics that I need to be reviewing. And then um, there was an announcement about the test correction is due on Monday, end of day, except unit test 3, that's going to be due on Wednesday night. And then finally, the homework is all the even problems from unit 2 review packet or something equivalent of. If you find that you need to be focusing more on particular topic, you can certainly spend more time on some topic and skip some other topics that you feel more confident in. That's certainly fine, but I should be seeing some work equivalent to doing about half the packet. All right. So That's it. And we spend the rest of the time doing